Is Trump 47 on his way to 86ing the deep state? And can MAGA enjoy this moment despite the timing? Blaze News The Mandate starts right now. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Jill Savage, joined by Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
Ready to talk about the good stuff today.
Hopefully there's some good stuff. And our politics editor, Chris Bedford, out in D.C. as always. There's a lot of stuff today, Chris.
There's a lot going on. Hey, I love your use of the term 86. That comes from 86 Bedford Street, an old speakeasy in New York. And, a well-named establishment.
Well, the Bedford Bar Crawl makes another appearance here on the show. But let's get to the news that everybody is talking about, because it was the bombshell that with the referrals for the criminal investigation of the former CIA Director John Brennan and FBI Director James Comey. So if you missed it, newly declassified CIA review alleges that senior officials, including Brennan, Comey, and Clapper, pushed the discredited Steele dossier, despite all the warnings from Russia analysts to frame President Trump during his first term. But Matt, here's the question. Is this actually long overdue accountability, or is it actually a perfectly timed distraction from Trump's DOJ and the Epstein mess that we were all talking about yesterday?
How about both, Jill? How about both? Why not? Why can't both be true? We all know this is a long overdue point of justice, really, that the American people have been pining for a long time. What happened during that period to President Trump was far worse than Watergate. It's one of the largest scandals in American history, as far as I'm concerned. We can't talk about it, too much. This is something that needs to be dealt with, because we have to reform these agencies. And if no one gets punished, right, then it will continue. The corruption will continue until the beatings improve. And we haven't seen the beatings yet. So it's good that this is happening. But nonetheless, the manner in which this stole the headlines is, of course, suspect, I think, many people. And it'd be understandable if the FBI, all these people wanted to move on and say, hey, look, we're doing things, and here's one of the things we're doing, damn it, put this out there.
Our coworker, Steve Baker, called this red meat for MAGA, Chris. So why are we seeing this report out right now? Why do we get this as the timing?
Well, I think that's probably correct. It's helpful, but it's also extremely important. I remember when this meeting, the original January 6th meeting, 2017, was leaked to the press shortly afterwards. I was at the Daily Caller then, and my then managing editor had come to us from the national security reporting sector, Jeff Ingersoll, and he read the news reports that leaked of Brennan and Clapper and Comey all coming in to brief the president on the Steele dossier. And as soon as we read it, he said, this reeks to me of an intelligence operation. And back then, I just really reported on politics. I hadn't been forced into this realm of subterfuge yet. And I said, so what do you mean? And he explained, this ridiculous dossier that bears no semblance of reality unless you're completely and totally in the fever swamp of we hate Donald Trump, was briefed to the president for the sole and explicit purpose of being able to leak that briefing to the press. If you had sent around that dossier, it had been sent around previously. Even BuzzFeed, remember them, rest in peace. Even BuzzFeed had declined initially to publish this. The New York Times had passed on it. Washington Post had passed on it. I think BuzzFeed actually ended up breaking it. Mm-hmm. This wasn't able to get any kind of actual traction because nothing official had happened with it. It was just something that reporters read and said, well, that's salacious. I get lots of crazy tips all the time. Where's the meat here? Where's the there? Where's the evidence of any of this that's actually being presented? So they briefed the president on it, the incoming president, the president-elect. And then it was official. And then they were able to leak it. Yep. And then they were able to trigger resignations. And then they were able to begin that first-term assault that was so vicious. And you're right, Matt. This reminds me of Watergate. The last person in office who threatened to tear apart the American intelligence agencies was Richard Nixon. Before him was John F. Kennedy. So there's actually a huge amount of similarities to Watergate. And this is something that Epstein aside, another intel op potentially is extremely important to actually get into the bottom of. And just imagine how white pilling it would be if there were actually consequences for any one of these treasonous scumbags.
Yeah, and the striking thing about this is not one of those, conservative talking points at this point. I mean, it was clear.
No.
It was clear enough then what was going on, but at this point, this is just reality. This is real. There's no debating what happened here. Senior members of the United States government conspired together to put fake news right on air and dirty the reputation of the contender for president, a man who was coming in to be president, and tarnished his reputation. But it was far more than that, right? It's that they were spying on him. They were acting as if he was a security threat, and they wanted that Russian narrative out there. I mean, and this is another thing. No, everyone forgets this. I mean, Obama and Hillary were saying this stuff. I mean, she was saying stuff about his, relation to Russia, and we have to be. I mean, this was an op from the very beginning. So now we have this going on. We have, some supposed punishment. I guess my question is, I mean, what is this investigation leading to? What are they going to get these guys on? And that's where I'm a little concerned that. At the end of the day, this is going to be a wrist slap, but we should take Cash seriously. Obviously, he knows the history of this. They know enough to go in there and get these guys. But partly why I didn't like this drop was because it's not clear to me what exactly, they're going to charge them with. I mean, what are they going to do at the end of the day? Do we know that? I don't think anyone knows that yet.
They've been pretty tight-lipped about it.
Yeah.
And so far, what we know is just from the report that was given to the FBI. And that report included that the CIA analysts had said, none of this makes sense. This isn't verified. This is not worthy of a report that's going to go up. It should not be included in the briefing. And then that Brennan had said, I want this included. Largely because, like so many completely stupid Trump theories, it fit into a comic book caricature that he had already formed in his head about who Donald Trump was and what he was capable of and what kind of man he was. And it wasn't actually based on proper intelligence sourcing, which is what his analysts and a lot of people at the CIA had said at the time. So then he personally emailed his deputy and said, this needs to be included. And then a few years later, he went before Congress and said, I recommended against it. The CIA recommended against it. Mm-hmm. Now, the CIA did recommend against it, but he was in charge, and he overruled them.
Yeah.
And he said, that we need to include this. This is essential. And then they worked together to leak this sort of stuff to the press and to try and take that administration. So for him, at least you've got perjury. Mm-hmm. The conspiracy between them, I don't know. What do you do when somebody does something extremely corrupt, but you can't actually nail them? I guess they bring a RICO charge. It's going to be hard. It's still a long way out to see if there's any actual serious repercussions. But right now, at least, they'll get a Wikipedia entry.
Let's go ahead and bring in current FBI director into this. We have soundbite number one. Cash, he was out there talking about this, hinting potentially at this with Comey about a month ago. Take a look.
I can't get ahead of everybody.
All right. What did you make of your predecessor's walk on the beach with the shells 8647?
The FBI is bigger than any leader it's ever had or ever will have. And James Comey is a private citizen, and he can walk around the beach and talk about seashells and Crayola crayons for all I care about, and talk about how we're the conspiracy theorists. But I just remind the American people of one thing. When that man was a leader of the FBI, he perpetrated the largest criminal conspiracy, packaged political information from overseas, took it to a federal FISA court, and illegally surveilled a political opponent. So I won't be lectured on how to run this FBI from that man.
So, Matt, with what we know now, what do you make of that and what Cash had to say there?
Well, I mean, I think here is an example where I'd be shocked if he didn't do what he said he was going to do. I mean, this is a central part of his mission and the pick. The reason they picked him is because he's someone who's knowledgeable about this stuff, presumably, and is going to go after them. So, I think he's living up to his word here. And again, my problem, though, is the manner in which this was put out, the timing of it. is a little suspect, and we'll have to see what happens. But I mean, you have to be clear. I mean, for all the complaints right now by the FBI, by some on the right, this is what you wanted them to do, right? This is what you want Kash Patel in there to do, and it does, look like they're doing it. But one thing to keep in mind about this is that all government officials are also playing a game with media, and that's Chris is telling the true story of what happened in the past. I mean, they had the meeting with the president in order to leak the thing, in order to make sure that all the media outlets would pick up that dossier and be all over the place in the media. And this all circulates around playing games with the media. So that's a two-edged sword. On the one hand, I would appreciate it if they didn't play games with the media this time and they just went after people and they came out with pronouncements when they had real, progress in investigations. Here, great. They're playing the media. They're giving us the red meat we want, as Baker said. Keep going. Let's see how far you can go with it. That's great.
So, Chris, this is the accountability that we're looking for, right? Like, this is what everybody has been asking for. But, the timing, it's like, oh, gosh, this one, it just doesn't feel right.
I know, we still want to talk about Epstein, and I get it, but we're not going to get the answers on that from Donald Trump, which means we're not going to get the answers on that. So we have to kind of, I don't know. I've moved on emotionally because it's too painful. It's too irritating. It's too annoying. But the difference between Kash and Pam Bondi is that Kash Patel here is speaking from actual experience and knowledge. I mean, the only reason why that otherwise not super impressive Congressman Devin Nunes was so effective was because Kash Patel was on his staff. He was the person who really seriously pushed and exposed and went after, like a pit bull, every aspect of Russiagate and was able to help unwind it with the help of some very good investigative reporters. This was a difficult thing to do. As Chuck Schumer told us, if you go after the American intelligence agencies, they've got 1,001 ways to get back at you and destroy you. When I was digging into aspects of this myself, I was explicitly told by people who are in the know, not as a threat, as a warning, that these people will come after you. They will make your life a living hell. And he went at them. And that was when he didn't have the privileged position of director of the FBI. So it still remains to be seen. You're right. We're not talking about some of the things that I would certainly like to be talking about, but we could do every episode for the rest of our lives on the Epstein tapes, and I don't think that's going to change their opinions on the matter. So let's look at this win, I suppose.
Yeah,
it ends up being a win.
Right. We should say, there's nothing wrong also with changing. If you're in their position and you decided you're not going to talk about Epstein and you're moving on, then move on with the next thing that you're actually going to do. That's just good media practice, hygiene. So they're going to say, look, we were launching a criminal probe into these guys, into the sort of the original sin of the Trump era that the deep state committed against him. We're going after the people that you justifiably hate, and look at us, and that's great, and I applaud it. Because ultimately what is needed is restored trust in these central institutions that are at the basis of enforcing the rule of law in America. And that's the Department of Justice, that's the FBI, that's this CIA as well, and the other agencies. This goes to the heart of why people think their government is inherently corrupt and has crossed the line a long time ago. And so that's why the Epstein thing is still going to sting. It's still going to smart. It's not going to go away. It was deeply, intertwined with the American cultural experience of the last, 10 years. So, okay, fine. Maybe we can survive that if there is accountability in these other cases and they methodically start going after bad actors in the past. Because the one thing
I need some entertainment.
That's right. The one thing the one thing that's not going to cut it. We won't restore the rule of law in America unless some of this is done. Like, moving on is just not good enough for the base and a lot of people throughout the country. So, good stuff. There's a lot more heads we want to see roll, but you're right. At the end of the day, for me, it is like, show me the money, right? How are we going to get these guys? But we have to be honest and say, if you wanted one person to do this job, Kash Patel would be at the top of that list. So
yeah, but it's one of those things where this is the time to make all of the changes. I think this is what the American people are feeling. It's what the three of us want to see. We want to see the trust, the accountability, the transparency that we've all been promised. And I think that's, it's now or never. Everybody feels that for the Republic. But like you said, we could keep talking about this one forever. Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made a lot of progress and pretty fast. But while we're focused on restoring America, they can't actually focus on protecting your personal savings. That's still your responsibility. So one of the smartest ways to safeguard what you've worked so hard for is through diversification, especially with gold from our trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. In the last 12 months, gold's value has increased by over 40%, and central banks from around the world are driving demand even higher by buying up all that gold in record amounts. Global instability and geopolitical tensions are at their highest that they've been in decades. We all see the headlines. So that's why Birch Gold makes owning physical gold so easy. You can convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA backed by real gold, or simply purchase physical gold to store in your own home. Just text my name, Jill, to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. They have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. So take control of your savings today. Text my name, Jill, to 989898. But Chris, let's go ahead and get to your Beltway brief, because you said that a MAGA civil war is just wishful thinking on the part of the legacy media. So break down for us what you're seeing right now with the quote unquote MAGA civil war.
I know. This episode, I think I have to be the guy who's in the cuck chair, the one who's saying none of this really matters that much. I mean, the president so the media is kind of excited. MAGA turns on the president turns on MAGA, yada, yada. The reality is, like it or not, the Democrats have one point correct, which is that the president is the founder and living leader of this political movement, which means sometimes he disappoints people. But a lot of those times he disappoints people, I think the Epstein tapes aside, are because they have seen in him what they already personally believe, and a lot of his actual ideas are just continuing as they kind of always have. In that there is rebellion amongst the podcast bros, ourselves included. Well, there's confusion and bewilderment amongst some of the normal base who I've been speaking with. This is not actually any kind of a fracture that we won't move on from. There's been a number of different places where the president has surprised or upset or ticked off people who are loyal supporters. They say, hold on a second, that's not what I voted for, because that's their main issue. But there's zero indication that the president's actual support within the party on Capitol Hill, where I just came from, or the White House, or in the voting populace has actually shifted at all. Some of the main things that he ran on, finishing the wall, which he said I think 10 years and 1 month ago, he promised in that golden escalator, that's going to be finished by the end of this term based on the bill that he just passed. The taxes that he passed in his first term are going to be made permanent, plus more. The $47 billion or something close to that has just been given to ICE and Customs and Border Patrol in the aid of internal deportations. It's not even counting what's been given to strengthen the wall or the border. These are the sorts of things that don't just address the wrongdoings in the past, but actually help shape a future where the American people have a shot, where the reshoring that is going on, the attempts to redress the gutting of the middle class that has gone on for our entire adult lives and before then, is hopefully going to start to be reversed. The unbelievable trade deals are going to start to be reversed. And even things that are going on in Ukraine or going on in the Middle East, the question that our policymakers are starting to ask is not what is right for Ukraine or what is right for even Israel, but what is right for the United States? What is the just action that is in the interests of the United States? These are extremely important changes in how America is governed. And those are the things that we're 7 months into 4 years. And God willing, there'll be someone who falls and lifts the mantle after this. Those are the things that are actually going to be part of the history book significantly more than the attempts by the media to say, listen, this is coming apart, they're attacking each other.
Yeah.
I mean, our job is to talk every day. So we're going to point out what's messed up, and we're going to point out what's wrong and what needs to be addressed. But the voters who are going to show up at the booths in November and 2 years after that, I think their minds are going to be on different aspects.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong on the internet, as they say. And one of them would be putting Bedford in the cuck chair. I mean, no one puts baby in the cuck chair.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
So we have to zooming out a little bit. I mean, I like this piece a lot because the point here that you're making is a lot of this is normal politics, and it's a sign of life. It's a sign of a healthy coalition. It's going to argue back and forth. And I think that that's correct. I mean, the overarching theme of the last 7 months has just been a big win and a complete, vibe shift, as the kids say. I mean, it's an utter sea change in American political and cultural life, and we've seen that all around us. So that's the backdrop. And then within that, you have these sometimes very important debates within the party about different parts of the administration. And then also, we should point out that, as you point out, that these debates actually get somewhere, right? I mean, we've already seen course correction. We certainly have seen people change a little bit what they're saying in the media because the base is getting a reaction. They're actually being listened to by this administration in a way that I think is very healthy and heartening to see. It's not as if people are being ignored. If anything, there's a lot of annoyance on the part of certain people in the administration at some of these debates, and they'd like people like us to shut up. But as you say, it's our job. But the important thing is that they are listening, and you see real results, and that's astounding. I mean, we do have to step back and think. Most of the conversations we're having, these days, every day when we sit here and talk, are conversations that would have never been possible. They would have been laughable a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's completely right. I mean, we talk a lot about this, but the Overton window has shifted so dramatically that I sat next to you. I was in the audience, actually. You were on the stage with the important people. When Michael Anton, maybe 7 years ago, brought up taking down birthright citizenship as an important aspect of the future of the country. And I rolled my eyes and said, oh my gosh, we can't even repeal Obamacare. What are you talking about? This is such a great idea that it doesn't matter at all. I mean, there's lots of different things that I would change about this country, but this is bar talk. And here we are. People like Anton in power and birthright citizenship on the chopping block, and the American people just kind of move on. And there's another aspect to this that you mentioned on our editorial call yesterday for the news site, which I think was important, is that this is somewhat the fruits of winning. The fights that are happening right now and the squabbling that is happening right now. I remember a senior member of the Bush administration telling me when Donald Trump did some executive action or Congress did something, I can't recall what it was in the first term, he said, holy smokes, if we had tried this under Bush, we would be surrounded by a ring of 18-wheelers. The White House would be blocked off. The streets would be filled with protesters. Our own base would turn against us because we had dared to make this trade deal or that trade deal or make this cutoff. And no one even noticed with the first administration. And that was part of that. But now there's a real truth to that. The Bush White House, previous White Houses, not only lacked the vision that this administration has, particularly in its second term in power, but it was constantly embattled by Republicans. Remember when this Clapper meeting happened in 2017? The impulse amongst Republicans and the American people and the voters was to say, well, geez, I mean, the FBI says this. The CIA says this. What was it, the 31 intelligence agencies or whatever number they came to, 17 intelligence agencies. They all say this. It must be true. I mean, these guys are our white knights out there. They arrested Hannibal Lecter. We've seen the movie. And now they raid Trump's Mar-a-Lago. They come at him with X or Y or Z. And people just roll their eyes, including previously squishy Republican senators who are people who lag the American people on their political ideas by 10 to 15 years on average. It's a total sea change. The overdue window has exactly shifted. And we're living in an age that's going to make reporting on politics and media in the future a somewhat boring and dull enterprise. We're going to be chasing this dragon for a long time.
No, we're going to make it fun, Bedford. That's our job. We're going to make it fun for the people at home. But I listen to you and I say, all right, we got the birthright citizenship stuff. That's going really well. We were told about 100 times Obamacare. We were going to go after that. Can we re-up that? Can we get that back on the list of priorities? I think a lot of people would really enjoy this. But I did love the Beltway brief today because it looks like the overall fights that we're having, these are fights that we wish that we were having 10, 15, 20 years ago, that they are so far, like you're saying, that the Overton window has shifted so far to the right. And the CNNs, the MSNBCs of the world, they really don't have anything to go after with Donald Trump. He has been so good for so long this term. Now, again, the Epstein stuff this week may be aside, but they don't have anything to go after. They don't have the Russia stuff anymore. So they need to go through and create a civil war.
Yeah, they do. And, I don't even really know what they're saying anymore. I remember a time where I had to watch Morning Joe every morning because I needed to know what Obama and Michelle were watching for breakfast. I don't have to watch that show anymore. It's completely irrelevant. Nobody cares. What they say doesn't matter. And they were the most prominent show amongst the two of them. I mean, right now, CNN is good occasionally to watch for some Trump administration official beating up on some anchor. But their actual impact is negligible.
That is the sign of where we actually are. So if you're thinking this is not a great week, and by all means, that's okay if you want to think that, just remember, nothing that's said on CNN or MSNBC even matters anymore. Bedford, great stuff today. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
When we come back, we'll go out to LA with Julio Rosas. He's been out there. Karen Bass is making headlines. We'll have more right after this. If you only listened to LA Mayor Karen Bass, you would think that Los Angeles was a thriving, family-friendly immigrant community. Earlier today, Bass announced that she's filing a lawsuit against the Trump administration for deploying DHS to her city.
Just finished working with our city attorney to file a lawsuit because we have to stop this mess. The idea of having troops go through the park and disrupt a children's summer camp or drive through the streets and just pick people off the streets. We don't know if a kidnapping is happening or what. And so our city attorney is leading the way. We're filing a lawsuit. We're calling for an injunction for this to stop.
Blaze Media national correspondent Julio Rosas has a pretty different story than Karen there, and he joins us now. So Julio, take us through the differences between what you saw and what Mayor Bass was trying to describe. Her city is great, Julio. It's the problem that Trump and this DHS guys, they're all coming in and taking over our city.
Well, again, the reason why we're in this mess is because of Democrats, and it's from the border being purposefully left open to their now attempts to politically resist and also in some cases violently resist. And so I was with the National Guard and with the DHS deployment to MacArthur Park. And if anyone who knows Los Angeles knows that MacArthur Park is not a place where there should be any children playing because it is completely filled, not just with illegal immigrants typically, but it's also filled with drugged out homeless people. There's human waste all over the park. There's drug paraphernalia, trash. It is certainly not a place that if I had any kids, I wouldn't want my children playing there. So this idea that this sweep was done to terrorize people was just simply not true. This was done as a way to show that not only is DHS going to continue their operations in the Los Angeles area, but they have the ability to do so. And it was pretty interesting to see because this was, by all accounts, one of the largest joint interagency task force deployments that has happened in a very long time for an operation like this. And so I was interested to see because a lot of the locals, since the riots, have been more aware, have been posting on social media through their networks whenever they see any type of operation happening. And this convoy, in the middle of the day, was able to basically reach the target objective before most people were able to realize what was going on. And of course, once the sweep started to happen, then people started to come out a little bit more in full force, and then the mayor showed up shortly thereafter. So I think this was important to see through because, yeah, you're right. I mean, this is Los Angeles is a city that was once great. It's not. It hasn't been for a long time. It's because of Democratic policy, and this is this is there are a lot of illegal immigrants in the not just the city but the county as well. So this really was to show everyone from Mayor Bass all the way up to Gavin Newsom that the federal government isn't going anywhere, and that they're going to carry out the mandate that President Trump was given with this recent election.
So I have to break in with a story, my own MacArthur Park story from many years ago. The statute of limitations is long gone, so everyone's fine. Everyone will be fine. But I was with some friends, and these bad hooligans I was running with wanted to get fake IDs.
They did.
They did. Yes.
Definitely them.
These girls, really,
Yeah.
they wanted a fake
Terrible.
ID. So anyway, you drive near MacArthur Park, and there was a place back then. They'd kind of wave you down, like, what do you need? And they see the white kids in the car. They knew what they were there for. And they had it set up so you really didn't have to park, or you parked, briefly right by these locations. Anyway, foolishly, myself and a friend didn't park near the location where this activity was going on. Instead, we parked like on the other side of the park. We had to walk across the park. And it took about 5 seconds before we were followed by many young gentlemen who used very offensive racial slurs against me and my friend. And we were happy to make it all the way, across the park without getting mugged or being assaulted and get the hell out of there. But I mean, the idea that this place, which has been, bad for a long time, has the children there. It's like, what is she even talking about? No one in Los Angeles is going to even believe her words. But it leaves this question of people watching. I mean, how many people watching are thinking, wait a minute, we could just send law enforcement in there and clean it up, right? I mean, I was just hearing from one of our producers. There's a long-time business that's been there for years. They have to use security to escort people in and outside the business.
They're just trying to get a pastrami sandwich, Julio. That's it. That's all they're trying to do.
or jewelry in this case. I mean, the problem is that this sort of puts the lie to the whole narrative that Bass has about her entire city. Don't you think the optics are not in her favor?
No, but this is all that she can do, really, thankfully, because, I mean, obviously, if it was up to her, the raids would stop and the National Guard would be sent home. But again, the whole reason why that this is necessary is because the local population completely flipped out over legal immigration enforcement operations. And so, I mean, I was in Los Angeles for the 4th of July because there were protests planned, and that kind of got a little out of control outside the federal building downtown. So, I mean, things are still happening there where people are still trying their best to actively interfere. We've gone past people just simply filming the Border Patrol agents or ICE agents doing their thing. And it's concerning because we've now seen not just the rhetoric against them become more unhinged, but people are acting on that. I mean, we had 2 incidents in Texas just over the past week. Just the other day, just yesterday, the Border Patrol chief for the El Centro sector, he said that people were trying to puncture their tires, and they had to be. Thankfully, they were arrested for that. So nationally, the country is becoming a powder keg over this, and really what happens in Los Angeles will be telling what other people are going to do in other areas. And so obviously it's not just isolated to Los Angeles, but Portland, Seattle, other areas as well. But again, this should not be a surprise to anybody that President Trump, especially now that he has that one big beautiful bill becoming law, this is just the beginning. I mean, people voted for this. People voted for mass deportations. They may not like the optics of it, but again, the reason why we're in this position in the first place, the reason why mass deportations became popular is because Biden opened the border for 4 years. And this is the consequences of that, of people wanting to undo that damage. And yeah, even though there's been some roadblocks thrown up in Trump's way, ultimately, I think it's going to be seen through. And as I said before, I think it will be seen through, but it's going to be, we're going to have to buckle up because this is going to be a very, very rough road ahead of us.
So it's DHS and DOD officials. You said earlier that they reached their target objective fairly early on. So how much of that can you share with us? What were they out there actually trying to accomplish?
So, I mean, it was a sweep, right? I mean, this place historically does have illegal immigrants with whether they're street vendors or this is typically MS-13 territory, at least historically. And so this was a big show of force that again the Trump administration wanted to show, not just to the criminal elements that are there, but again to the sanctuary cities across the country. It doesn't matter what they're going to post on social media in terms of their protesting, right? They are going to carry out the mission, and that's why it was kind of funny when Bass showed up and she demanded, Karen Bass demanded to see the manager of the operation. She had the phone call with Chief Bovino, and she asked him, "When are you leaving? When are you leaving?" And he told her when the mission is done. And when the mission was done, once the sweep was done, and okay, it was time to go. That's when the convoy left. But that doesn't mean that they're going to leave the area entirely. And operations are still happening. And even when that large task force was in MacArthur Park, there were still other congruent operations, immigration enforcement operations by Border Patrol, by ICE, by HSI, that were happening in Los Angeles County, and other arrests were made that day. So it wasn't just MacArthur Park, but this was, again, I think at the end of the day, this was to show the illegal immigrants as well that the Trump administration is serious about this. They're not going to back down from it. And I know that there's kind of a debate over farm workers and other things like that, but I think that large show of force might help further incentivize people who are here illegally to self-deport, which I think was ultimately one of the other objectives.
Well, I still can't believe it, but if I'm to believe my friends on the internet, the traffic, I have to see it for myself, is going down possibly on account of this. I don't know about that. I'll believe it when I see it. It seems almost too good to believe. But you see these pictures, right, of the freeway during rush hour, and there's not traffic because supposedly people are afraid to go out. But whether that's true or not, what the point that I'm interested in is whether people like Angelenos watching this, what the response will be. Because on the one hand, right, we know there's some very serious criminal elements and really terrorists who are going to oppose the federal government and, states' rights style, 1850s style, right, go after the feds. And that's increasing, as you point out. On the other hand, there's got to be a lot of regular people going, wait a minute, it's possible to enforce our laws? We could just clean up MacArthur Park. I mean, that's possible. Do you get any sense of that with people in terms of reactions of people in California?
I mean, Chief Bovino, he said he wasn't where we were at MacArthur Park. He was in another part of that area. But he said that there were a number of people who did come up to him and say, "Hey, thank you for being here," because as Matt, as you said, the issue of MacArthur Park has lasted for a very, very long time, and people have constantly demanded change and demanded that things get better, and obviously that has not happened. So I think as much as there are people who are upset that this is happening, there were people, even responding to the video who are Angelenos who said that this was good. It is finally that there was a show of force in that particular park, just because, nothing has changed. I mean, without exaggeration, on top of one of the entrances, and they had the ledge that's at my shoulder height. There was human waste just sitting right on top of it. It wasn't even on the sidewalk. It was right. And so I don't know why people can say, well, I mean, Eric Swalwell today or yesterday said that MacArthur Park is where families have picnics, and it's this basically nice park inside of this great city. One, he doesn't even represent the area. His district is far from that. So I would be shocked if he's even been there. But this is what the Trump administration is up against, right? In terms of the information war, they unsurprisingly, Democrats are willing to just contort themselves in all these lies to try to push this narrative that this was an invasion by federal forces. But no, I think yeah, people can see, oh, things can get better if we do certain things, and of course, Los Angeles. I mean, even downtown. I've been in downtown a lot recently. It looks like a third world country. There's graffiti, there's trash, there's closed up businesses everywhere. I don't know how people are able to make a living because it's just not what you would think a world class city would look like in the United States in a first world country. So I think that, maybe, that's not to say California's going to flip red, but I think once people kind of see after 2-3 years of this and kind of clearing out the illegal immigrant population, that people will see increases of standards of living that they probably wouldn't have thought of, like, for example, traffic. I will say, there, as someone who's visited Los Angeles frequently since 2018, I think I haven't seen that little traffic during the day in a very long time. Probably not since COVID. Not since the beginning of COVID in 2020. So that was pretty interesting. I would say that whole traffic thing, it is true to a certain extent. Obviously, during rush hour, it's a little bit more. But, from the Valley all the way down to, let's say Long Beach, instead of it taking 2 hours, it's starting to take maybe an hour and a half or an hour and 20 minutes, which, I mean, that is a big deal, especially if you commute long distances every day.
A win is a win, and we're going to take it. But Julio, you paint such a lovely picture. I'll say better you than me. And at least if we don't have all the riots for you, we can go through and have some mass deportations to keep you busy. Great stuff. Thanks so much, Julio.
Thanks.
We'll be back with more right after this. When we look at this, we're all in this boat together, right? We all want the perp walks to happen, but we know that some of the bad days are also going to be there. So targeting the deep state is really nice, but we actually do want results. So I posted on X that I don't really care about the press releases. Start making arrests, and then you'll have my attention. So let's go ahead and get to your replies for today. Keith starts us off, says, I want Cash and Dan facilitating perp walks. Me too, Dan. Personally, walking those perps out into the court appearances and then pre-trial confinement. Keith is not messing around. Keith wants to see stuff, and he wants to see it happen now, MP.
Yeah, I mean, he wants the actual visuals. Like, we can't emphasize the importance of this to people enough because they really want to see justice done.
Combating D.C. wrote that it feels like a distraction. I wonder if Trump knows how bad he stepped in it yesterday when he got completely defensive over an Epstein question. He did. He got defensive. There's no getting around that. Why are we still talking about this? Are we really doing this? And then Pam Bondi's like, oh, it's okay. I'll talk about it for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, look, he doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to move on. He's got a lot of important things going on. That's true. But yeah, that was one moment where Trump had to just run roughshod over the question and move on.
He wants to move on, but I can tell you, just based on the audience reactions, they never want to move on. Epstein is like the number one topic that we have here on the show. And I can tell you, like Matt was saying earlier in the show, they're definitely listening. We know that they're watching what we do, what others do in the media. They hear and see a lot in the administration right now. So keep pushing. You never know. This one's going to be a hard one, but let's go ahead and round out the replies. Dalton replied, exactly right. Less talk, more action. Do the jobs that you were hired or appointed to do. A little less talk and a lot more action. I do songs a lot here on the breaks for Matt. He makes fun of me a lot, but there's a song for everything, and this happens to be one of them.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that when you see comments like this, that's where everyone's at. They want to see actual results. But I'll give the Trump administration, props for the fact that I think part of the reason people are so eager is because so much happened right away, right? And it made impossible things happen, things we dreamed about happening. It made it all seem possible in the golden age when you had all that action at the beginning of the administration. And, if you are taking action in any of these positions, most of what you do can't be seen. You're not going to be going out there publicizing this stuff. You're not going to say, oh, this is what I'm doing today, right? Writing down your diary. You'll be quiet for a long time, and then you come out, boom, 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 and the product of your work is shown to the people. So that's ideally what we would want. But there's still a little bit too early to say here. There's a lot going on behind the scenes and otherwise. And what the audience has to do and what the voters have to do is just keep pushing for the things that they want.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if we go back to the Bush administration, if we think about a McCain or Mitt Romney that was running for office, we never would have had any of these talks that we're having right now. But that being said, we were promised a lot, right? And we hear, some of the people that are in this current administration, before they were in the administration, say one thing. And now that they're there, they're saying a different thing. I think that's really where the people go, okay, I just need a little bit more of an explanation. And we're not going to get it because that's not exactly how administrations work. They're not going to come through and explain every detail of the way. But the American people have just been, like you say, they're so ready for all of this to happen. And they're like, okay, let's just do the thing. You can just do things.
Yeah, I think one of the things to think about here is the pushing works. I mean, is that the pushing works? So you don't stop doing it. And if you look at how this administration has operated, it's not as if there's no motion, right? There's plenty of motion. It's been moving forward very fast at record-breaking speeds, the entire time. But here's the problem. The problem is, I'll say it again, is if you want to really reform the administrative state and the deep state, and this is why people are concerned, you cannot just gloss over things anymore and say, well, we have to protect the institution. The institution's not protected. No one trusts the institutions. So if no one trusts the institutions, you don't protect the institutions by holding things back. You need to actually, open up the books and show that you're going to be accountable and hold people accountable who were bad actors. We cannot have business as usual here. Otherwise, they won't be reformed. The whole reason we got to this place in the first place is because so many people in the past at DOJ and everywhere else were like, well, now the Republicans are in control, but we still care about the institutions, so we're not going to air all the dirty laundry or hold people accountable. We're still a part of the FBI, right? And that's how over time you become insanely corrupt, and that's where we're at. And people want a real house cleaning, and the house cleaning means it has to be structural. That's what no one in D.C. wants to hear. You actually have to go in and change the way these agencies operate in real ways, shut things down, rearrange things. That's what people want to see. And that's ultimately what this administration has to begin doing.
I just think back to our friend Jesse Kelly, who would always say the FBI needs to be shattered into 1,000 pieces. We're not here to go through and protect agencies that have previously been weaponized against the American people. Everybody wants, like, hey, the Department of Education, remember, we're shutting that one down. Yes. Let's go ahead and take that blueprint and apply it to a lot more of the agencies there in Washington, D.C. If it can happen in one, you guys, we can make it happen in more places.
Yeah, and I think that you're just going to see, if this pressure keeps continuing, you're going to see the administration respond, and the best people in the administration, they agree with everyone in the audience. They want to do these things, and you won't get everything, but you'll get a lot of it. It's going to take a while, but we're here for it.
You can't have everything, but you can have a lot of it. I don't know. Can we have all? Can we have it all? We can't. We can get it all. I know we can get there. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.